I am Candace Owens. I'm a wife. I'm a mother first, and I also obviously have a political podcast, documentary filmmaker, and I just create a ton of content regarding what's going on in the media landscape.
Sweet. And you have tomorrow a documentary
Yes.
coming soon.
Yes.
Convicting a Murderer.
Very excited about that.
What time does it drop?
You can watch it live on X tomorrow night, so we're super excited about that. It also will be available on Daily Wire Plus. The first 2 episodes will be free. And yeah, it's jumping into kind of building on Netflix made Making a Murderer, made it seem as if Stephen Avery was guilty. I don't know if you guys watched that. It was everyone was obsessed with this idea that the justice system got it wrong. We kind of went in, re-examined the case, and created Convicting a Murderer, which is a 10-part series, first docu-series I think we've ever done at the Daily Wire. Extremely proud of it. It's apolitical first and foremost, and it's been a labor of love. So I'm super excited to bring it to everybody and to change people's minds about what they thought they originally knew about the case. So, yeah.
And you went booty.
I went to Stephen Avery's
The junkyard.
Yep. And yeah, I like to get my hands dirty in terms of really understanding what's going on and talking to people in the town and seeing how they are impacted. Because for us, we scroll through our cell phones aimlessly and we comment on these cases, but real lives are impacted when something goes viral, and especially when something goes viral and produces the wrong answer, lives can be destroyed. And in this particular circumstance, you have a man and his nephew that are in prison, and they get love letters, and they've got fiancés and adoring fans and people writing songs about them. And that's all because Netflix was able to produce a docuseries, and people believe that everything they watch is real. And so I'm really interested in dissecting the deceptive media narrative in a bunch of different circumstances. Just, what they're feeding people, what people think is the norm, what people think will bring them happiness, what people think is true. And so that's kind of been my shtick, so to speak, for the last 9 years.
A couple years later. And basically, my understanding is your documentary is saying, nah, he did that shit. Is that about...
And that's the most eloquent way to put it.
I mean, there's obviously you would go into some details, and you've reanalyzed the court footage and the documents, and
just showing people what they didn't want you to see, essentially. Because when people decide on a narrative, the media gets fully behind it. It's a full court effort. It's supported by the usual pundits and suspects. Alec Baldwin got behind the Stephen Avery innocent train. Nobody thought about the woman who actually was killed and murdered. Trevor Noah got behind it. I kind of say anything that goes from Netflix to Alec Baldwin to Trevor Noah, you should immediately have your radar up and just go, am I hearing the truth, or am I listening to propaganda? And I'm fascinated by the impact of propaganda. I've been impacted by propaganda. I'm obviously a person that started with liberal tendencies. I think everyone knows that part of my story. I was left-leaning, so to speak, and now I'm super conservative. So it's right on par with everything that I do and everything that I've learned in my life about, not just accepting what the media is trying to spoon-feed you.
One question, and I don't know if you want to save some of this for what's in the actual documentary, but what would you say is like the most egregious thing Making a Murderer did that they just either something that was deceptive or something that was omitted? If there's one thing that was just the biggest smoking gun, or...
Yeah, well, I think I can definitely tell you this because this will be within the next 24 hours, people will be able to see this, but just skipping over who he was before they believed was wrongly convicted of this murder. People tend to tell you who they are early on, and a person that's torturing animals and cats and dogs and, in a relationship that is, with a minor who's crying and talking about that, he just had a very long, thick packet of crimes that they decided not to mention or to entirely diminish and make it seem like, oh, that was nothing. Yeah, so what? He threw a cat in the fire and doused it in gasoline, the family pet. Not normal behavior, not something that we do when we have a couple of drinks. And I think that was kind of the most egregious thing, really unpacking everything that they chose to leave out about who he was.
Can I make a pitch to you and to the Daily Wire for the next documentary?
Yeah.
Can you guys look into the Tiger King? Could you guys maybe put Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles on it?
Oh my God, Matt Walsh and the Tiger King needs to happen. I'm fully behind you on this pitch.
Candace,
I'm married. Third child on the way. Third child will be here in 10 weeks.
Oh, you're pregnant right now?
Yes. Are you kidding me? Very pregnant right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's good of you not to assume, right?
Yeah, I don't want
get in
to.
trouble
I don't want to get into any trouble.
Yeah.
You're how far along?
30 weeks.
30. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Any
rounding
thoughts
the
on
corner here.
is it a boy?
Thoughts
girl?
on whether it's a boy? No,
Well-
I have a biological understanding that it's a boy.
Okay.
No,
No, I didn't mean it that
let's
way.
keep
I
the
didn't mean
thoughts
that
out of
way.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitively a boy. And I have one boy already at home who's 2, and I have a little girl that's 1. So we're on the back to. I've basically
Awesome.
been pregnant for 3 years, so this is kind of my permanent state at the
Sure.
moment. Yeah.
Wow, it's
Congratulations.
yeah,
Thank you,
congrats,
guys.
and
Thank you.
it's certainly impressive. You said earlier on that you used to be kind of left leaning or super
Definitely
left leaning.
left leaning.
Okay.
Yeah. Which
Like
I think
nose
is pretty.
ring, pink
no,
hair?
no, there's no,
Okay.
there's no old photos
No?
that are going to
Okay,
surface
okay.
of me in a pussy hat screaming about aborting my children. I'm
Gotcha.
safe in that regard, but I would say I was definitely on the left, held liberal perspectives, which I think is actually really normal when you're young. I think when you're young, you kind of associate liberalism with freedom. And you're like, well, even the word sounds better to be a liberal than to be a conservative. So I think that's why they have that quote that if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not a conservative when you're older, you don't have a brain. So it turns out I had a heart and I do have a brain. So now I'm a conservative. And but I'm actually happy that I used to be a liberal because I think I understand why people gravitate toward it. And it helps me better able to communicate to people because I can understand where they're at. Yeah.
Candace, what are your thoughts on Proverbs 21:19? Better to live in a desert than with a quarrelsome and nagging wife. Also,
So your thoughts on Proverbs 21:19?
I like that we just jumped right into the Bible. That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
I would say that, yeah, you should aspire to marry the right person. Definitely.
Okay.
Without question. You should aspire to marry the right person. And part of that is making sure that when you're dating, you're dating somebody of value. And that also when you're considering looking for someone of value, you also take a second to measure yourself and see if you are a person of value that's worthy of marrying. Because I think people forget that part. That's almost the most important part.
Got it.
This is what a future.
This is what a
This is what
future
future depression.
future depression, Xanax, and wine combo nights alone looks like. But hey, the shashuka.
It's gonna be amazing.
So let's play the video, Nick. If you can go full screen on it, and then we'll get the panel's reaction.
Xanax wine nights.
It's 10:45 a.m. on a Saturday. I'm 29 and single, and I don't have kids yet. Here's what your Saturday morning looks like when you're single at 29 and you don't have a kid running around the house. I didn't rise from my bed until 10:15. Every time I thought, I should probably get up and do something. I thought, why? Nobody's making me. I'm not missing out on anything. I went to Beyonce last night, and I didn't get home until 1 a.m. And I danced and drank my little heart out, and I didn't pay a babysitter to watch my kids as I did that. And I woke up a tad hungover this morning, which is probably why I was in bed for so long. And I was just scrolling on my phone and I saw a picture of shakshuka and I thought, you know what sounds really good? Maybe I'm gonna learn how to make shakshuka today because I have no plans and I don't have kids and I don't have a husband and I don't have errands to run. I can go to the grocery store and learn how to make shakshuka. So that's on my agenda today. Also on my agenda, probably a rewatch of some Real Housewives of New York. I'm also doing a rewatch of Normal People on Hulu, which is really spicy and I highly recommend. Weirdly, I'm into this documentary on Netflix about blue zone countries, so I've got a pretty stacked day. Anyway, I say all this to say, whenever I'm hard on myself about why I'm not married and I don't have kids and I should be further along at 29, almost 30, I wouldn't want to do anything else this Saturday. And I know that you can do all these things when you have kids and you're married, and I understand, but the effortlessness and ease of my life, just kind of focusing on myself and the shakshuka I want to make or the Beyonce concert I want to go to really pays off when I'm hard on myself for not being where society tells me I should be in life.
I thought it.
So just because she's 29, you're saying that it's like too late for her and she's going to be doing Xanax and drinking wine at night because
No.
she hasn't reached that point
I
yet?
didn't say that. That's not what my tweet said. That's not what my
You
tweet
said the future.
Yeah,
Right.
because she's obviously a narcissist, right? So like,
Why
the
would you
issue
think
first
that?
and foremost, let's not pretend this is one video that she made. It's her brand on TikTok. It's her brand on social media. She talks about these are this community known as dinks. We're happy and we're childless. She talks about how great it is to be childless. So she has developed she's a social media influencer that talks about childlessness. So let's not pretend this is one woman making a video who just said, oh, I had a great Saturday. There's absolutely no reason if you had a great Saturday at 29 years old and you learned to make shashuka and you slept in at 11 until 11:15 or 10:15, whatever she said, that you need to bring up children. There's absolutely no reason. You just say, here's what I did today. I laid in all day. I did this. I did that. The fact that she has to correlate it to saying, and this somehow makes me better than people that have children, is the problem.
She doesn't say that.
She literally goes on to talk about not having children. It wasn't necessary in this video. So it's not like people are just shaming single women on the internet. You could go on right now and talk about what you've done all day, and there's no reason to bring up, but having a child or not. She's actually doing the shaming, and now we're trying to pretend that she's the victim. She's not. She has a brand where she talks about childlessness, and she talks about leaning into selfishness and all the things that are amazing about not having children. Again, this is not the first video that she's produced. So the reason why, and if you're a man watching this, don't marry this woman. She's basically telling you she's selfish. She's telling you she's a narcissist. Everything she says is about me, 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 me. Even if you're single, you don't have to make your whole day revolve around you. You don't have to. You can get up in the morning, you can go help others, you can do other things. You can say, now that I have free time as a single woman, I can go dedicate time to the church. I can sing, I can do this, I can help people find God. That particular woman that you just looked at is a selfish bitch, and men should not marry her. That's my personal opinion.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I'm glad you're admitting that.
It's like that.
I'm glad
like,
you're admitting that.
It's like a term that people use, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's just relatable.
It's
like, that's why it gets so many views, to answer your question.
I think that's really honest of you to say that.
You wanted to come in,
Fuck
guys.
them kids.
Yeah.
No, I said
I'm
quote
just gonna-
unquote.
I was
That's
gonna-
what they say.
Yeah,
know what
but
I
you're
mean?
admitting that so that she's starting the fight. You're looking
And
at
it's a
people that are
trend,
moms
that are
Like, I
trending.
don't when
It's a
I'm not,
trend.
when I'm with my kids.
Right.
I don't post videos and say F them single chicks with no kids.
Right.
She did the baiting, okay, and we responded. That's it. It was being rude, and if it was flipped and a conservative woman with children said the opposite of that
Right.
to single women,
It would blow up.
It would blow up, and they would
Right.
say, "How rude of you to! Why are you even mentioning single women? Just say you had a good day with your kids." That's
Yeah,
fine. If I
and
said
I
I
feel
woke
like
up, went to the
nowadays
park
it's
with my
like-
kids, did that, okay, chill. Why are you correlating it to children? It doesn't make any sense. So, and like I said, she's produced more content, so that the context is important. She's leaned into this as a brand and as an influencer. So, then you're going to expect the people that influence people to have families to respond. Matt Walsh being among them, me being among them, and I would like to again warn men against marrying a woman who holds those sorts of perspectives, because she's ultimately just selfish. Like I said, you can have a day and you can be single. You don't have to dedicate your whole day to me, narcissist, me, here's what I did for me. It's just not a woman that you want to marry, full stop, for leaving the kids totally separate from it. I wouldn't marry a woman like that.
So, show of hands, who here wants to have kids one day?
More, yeah. It's my third, but
Men that are married and have children can do all of these things as well, but this is what makes me feel better because I'm not that far along. And I think if she's giving comfort and solace to women that want to be in that position and aren't quite there yet, whether you took it that way or not, I think that that's okay.
I don't think anything that she did in there was meant to be charitable. It was all about her. So, I mean, just a different interpretation, but I'm just happy that you were honest and admitted that it is becoming trendy to put
It's
down
like,
women.
yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, speaking to what you were saying about it being an act of rebellion, I used to be a feminist. If you had found me, you're 22, right? Found me at 22, I would have probably had the same perspectives as you about family. It is something different, and you will realize that when it's someone that's 29 years old and saying that, it's not the same intention. It's not, I'm young, I'm free, I'm wild, and I think I'm going to live forever. What she's doing is something different. And also, just recently today, actually, Emma Roddick-Jakowski came out with a quote about, I think getting divorced before you're 30 is chic. That's something else. And that a woman at 22, a woman at 29 saying something that is appropriate when you're at 21 or 22, it's a little different. And she knew what she was doing. It was intentional. And like I said, if you look into her content, this is not some innocent woman that was posting just to boost herself up on the internet. She's trying to get clicks. She's trying to get views.
Right.
And she got them, for better or for worse. Sorry, I was asking a question. What kind of content do you do on OnlyFans?
Mainly topless content.
Okay,
So-
and you currently have a boyfriend?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I talk about this extensively on my show. I mean, the truth is that if you are going to engage in sex work, you are going to probably make a lot of money, especially if you're young. You're on a very tight rope. As you get older, your value goes down, and men are going to want women that are younger and available to them. I'm talking about in terms of just making the person who will subscribe to your OnlyFans page. Obviously, women, you're declining as you age. And the truth is that high-value men don't want to date women that are sex workers or even women that aren't sex workers and lean into the whole talking about how sexy and are freely available on the internet for other men to see. What we're talking about is biological proclivity. What men are doing when they first say, this sounds amazing, to date a stripper or to date a prostitute or to date a sex worker, is there's this instinct to have sex. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to have sex all the time. But then when they realize that actually a form of wanting to be in a relationship is feeling that there's a mystery to a woman, that there's something that's yours, there's something that's sacred, there's something that's powerful and beautiful that just you share. And when they realize that they have to share that with other men, it completely diminishes the man. A recent cultural example of that, obviously, is what's happening with Nina Agdal. She's not a sex worker by any means. She just kind of said some sexy things on the internet about wanting cock, and look at what...
Was not expecting that from Candace.
I'm quoting her directly, so this is purely academic. Purely academic, and look at what happened. You know, now Logan has become the laughing stock of other men as they piece together everything that she's ever said that's overtly sexual. And again, she's not a sex worker, but what happened is her value just completely plummeted because, they're this thing that men need to feel. And I don't want to say possession in a way that sounds bad, because it's not bad. It's actually really beautiful. And I'm lucky and fortunate that I get to experience that in my marriage, and it's something that women should strive toward. Women that make those exchanges in their youth, I think that's sad, and I do feel bad for Nina Agdal, is because she said a lot of those statements when she was really young. She's probably your age. And she had a camera, and she said it, and it lives forever. Right. And now every man that she dates is going to say Dylan Danis has made her available to everyone. And I hope things work out between her and Logan, but if you don't think that that's going to impact Logan, or that's not actively impacting him as a man, it is. So with women, it's a trade-off. First thing you said was, I make money. This is about money. It's about money, but when it comes down to marrying these women, men just don't want it.
And that's exactly. So,
I'm just saying that men's natural proclivity is to not accept that, because it brings them shame. Men are biologically proud creatures.
I understand, but not everybody can be like that.
No, I know. I'm not. I'm just telling you what is happening and why people are. I'm just talking about cultural events, the Nina Agdal thing, and if you look at people like Emily Ratajkowski, she's obviously hot. But this is a woman who's now trying to make divorce chic, and I think that the understanding is in Hollywood is, sleep with her and move on. She's not marriage material. Her husband, when he had her, cheated on her because they didn't have that thing. I feel like I've slept with the girl. I've seen her naked so many times, right? So there's nothing special about Sebastian Baer marrying her, because we've all seen her naked. There's nothing sacred in that relationship. And I'm just speaking on telling you, this is why women struggle to get married when they've made themselves available on OnlyFans, because other men don't want to share. They don't want to share their wife. They maybe will share their girlfriend. They might think it's fun to date a stripper for a little bit. They might think, oh, this means I'm going to have sex 12 times a day. But then when it gets down to just their biological instinct, it's actually quite embarrassing for them as a man, because they can look up your girl and here she is, so that's what I think is happening.
I hear a lot of men talk about how a woman inherently loses value as she gets older, and that's why that they should seek out young women.
Well, I live in the South, and a lot of people get married young, and I think it's really beautiful and wonderful. They preserve this sort of innocence. I have people that work for me that want to get married at 22. They drop out of school, so I don't think there's anything wrong with marrying when you're young. I'd have to see the full context of what they're talking about, because I do think, obviously, the longer you wait, and especially in this society that's creating this simulation that sexuality equates to freedom when it doesn't, that what he might be suggesting is that the longer a woman runs free, the more partners that she's gathering, and her worth is being diminished. And I think that there is some veracity to that. But, if it's said in a way that sounds a little crass, like seek out younger women because they're not as used, and I can see why people would be offended by it, but that might be underpinned by a little bit of logic. So I'd have to see the clip in its entirety. I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that like swapping DNA is like just sex. I mean, a man leaves a piece of himself inside of you.
But man, that's the way they think. And like for women, we get attached to them emotionally, having sex with them.
Which is why it's more of a, when women have a lot of partners, it is different. It is worse in a way, and people don't want to admit that. But because we are more emotional, there is an attachment. It isn't just sex for women. I think women are damaged by those relationships. Women like to think, because of the social simulation, that it can just be sex, it's whatever. Non-committal, the only people that benefit from that lie are men. It is not great to have sex and have a man not call you back. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't matter if a BuzzFeed article says it does. I had a wonderful weekend and this is why I had sex and didn't worry about it. you feel used, and especially I would say if you're not a sex worker and a man does that and never calls you back, and you don't even have money to show for it, I think it diminishes your self-worth even more than your worth to a man. And I think it can definitely be harmful for men. I want to be clear. I'm saying that it's different for men and it's different for women, but I don't agree with the statement sex is just sex at all.
New York Post, I'm a sex therapist. I sleep with clients to save marriages.
Oh my gosh. I didn't
They
realize
went
you were
crazy.
this person. I did see.
Did you reacted to this, or you saw it?
Almost did, but I'm here.
You're here now. So,
Perfect.
Nick, can you pull up the article really quick?
Yeah.
One more. Sex therapist Olivia Bentley, Nick, takes a hands-on approach with her clients by sleeping with them. I've saved marriages, the Boise, Idaho native told Kennedy News, calling her work life-changing.
Most outrageous thing I've ever heard. It's so in the realm of like dragons and mythological creatures that it's hard to respond to. The idea that she's saving marriages, it's just.
You're in disbelief.
I'm actually in utter
belief.
disbelief that she is saving marriages.
Here's another.
So you're not saving marriages, you're helping people to keep up a farce that they are in a marriage. Because at the very moment that you let someone else into your marriage, it's no longer a marriage.
No.
Yeah.
And
these
guys will
women,
come in.
women
have turned around and said, I will allow you to see a professional.
So they are not in a marriage. That's the
well,
point.
they're married.
Or
some of their wives
out,
are like dying from cancer and this, that, and the other. And
If I'm dying from cancer and my
somebody
husband
sleeps
goes
with
to
somebody
sleep with somebody, I
else,
swear to God.
And their wives are the ones that come.
Hold on, just one at a time, please. Go. Candace, were you?
I just would like to make the point that at the very moment that you loan your spouse out, especially if you're dying of cancer, so that they can get off, you're no longer in a marriage. So it's just a farce. It's like it's a comical. You're pretending for people that you're in a marriage, that you're in a loving relationship. That's not what a marriage is. So to say that I help marriages, no, you help destroy marriages, and they can go out and say that we're still married because what we've done is we've essentially said, you take care of this aspect of the marriage. It's like saying you raise the kids, you have sex with him. This isn't a marriage. It's the whole thing is fake, right?
What do you think that they should
I'll bring
do?
you in next.
What do you think that
they should work on their
circumstances-
marriage together. The union between a husband and a wife should work on their marriage together to fix it. You don't bring out an outside person to sleep with your husband or your wife.
But if she's saying, I'm not down for sex,
then she might be down for a divorce.
I want to outsource the sex.
What if she's going to die from cancer and she
One
wanted him and she allowed him to do that because he needed to get off some way or shape?
While she was dying of cancer, one of the last things on her mind was,
This is a real life. Yeah, this was a real. I'm asking you.
And is that what he told you?
So
that his wife that's dying of cancer wanted him to come have sex with you?
Not with me. This is from what I've heard. Yes,
somebody told you that there's that as a dying wish. My dying
so
wife
how would
said,
you
please
want
go
that?
have sex with a prostitute.
I saw it
at a
on
brothel."
TikTok.
I'm just going to call bullshit on that altogether.
No,
I just don't
because
think
it does
when you're
happen.
dying of
It
cancer,
happens.
going through leukemia.
People will literally bring their guys here.
Please bring them on the podcast.
I just want to there's other avenues you can take for sex therapy.
Normal couples counselors.
Yes.
Real couples counseling,
regular.
where you try to solve the problem and you release it, and you don't just source it out to a prostitute.
Any of us, what constitutes a marriage, because every relationship is different.
Well,
so
the Bible.
If a husband, okay, but
These words
if you're
have
not,
meaning.
Not
But not
everyone is
everybody is-
religious.
not
Well,
everybody
wait, hold on. Is
Like
that a
saying,
cross
It
necklace?
doesn't constitute,
Yeah,
what do you,
Wait,
yeah.
okay, really quick.
Not everybody's
Since
religious.
we're talking about religion, really quick. Okay, you have a cross necklace, but then your shirt says "Made in Hell."
Yes,
Can
it
you?
does.
I'm a little confused.
Ironic,
Can you?
I mean,
I'm a little confused.
the stone is red, so it matched,
But why are you wearing a cross on your neck?
Color coordinating with your neck?
because I don't see a cross as religious, so
Okay.
I
Just
thought
like you
necklace
don't
was
see a
cute.
marriage as religious. So,
I don't think that a marriage
have meaning, which is why it's like we're at a stage where people are like, what is a woman? Because they just go, well, we're going to call it a marriage, but we're going to sleep with other people. We're going to bring in prostitutes. We're going to outsource raising the kids, or we're never going to have kids. You're calling it a family. It's not a family, and this is what it is. The words have no meaning, right? I'm wearing the cross. Why? I don't know. I don't think of it as religious. Okay, well, Jesus Christ died on the cross.
you think that.
That's what you think.
Wait.
It's
That's
been
what you
proven.
think.
So why
It's
are
been
you wearing the
proven.
cross?
Sex
Because I think it's
worker
cute.
is
You
a
just think
more
that the design is cute.
Yeah.
better
Wait,
term.
really
I
quick.
grew up
Hold on.
Catholic.
than
I was religious, and I'm not
prostitution
anymore. I
being
don't have to
called-
believe in what you believe, and I can say that if
I didn't
somebody's-
say you had to believe. I asked you a question.
But
I
you're
said, why are
telling
you
me,
wearing the cross?
Okay, and you're saying that the religious aspect of marriage is the only thing that matters. It's not, because people don't follow what you believe.
Okay, I asked you why you're wearing the cross, and you said because you thought it was cute.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
glad we
do.
got an answer. She's wearing the
Okay.
cross around her neck because she thinks it's cute.
I do.
Would
I'm
you
not religious.
also wear like a Star of David?
It's cute.
As,
Well,
like
because-
if it was cute, would you wear
Well,
it?
okay, well,
I
I
just
don't know
mean like
where- I don't know,
liberals
okay,
are all about
look.
like having
Would you wear, like,
respect
a
and
yarmulke 'cause
tolerance.
it's,
So
like,
I'm just
cute?
like wondering if you
I'm
think
asking
it's
would you wear a yarmulke because it's cute?
I think those are very
Oh, are
different
you talking
things.
like
Why is the
blasphemy?
cross
saying-
different from the
I'm-
yarmulke?
I'm just
I mean, I was
asking-
raised Catholic, and that's just
Would
not
you
something
wear
that
a
I believe
yarmulke
anymore.
if you thought it was cute?
No, I wouldn't. I mean, a yarmulke is completely different than
No,
a cross
it's-
that's
it's
been
not.
adapted
They're
into
different
culture. You can
symbols
buy a
of,
cross
like, a re-
necklace anywhere.
There's symbols. Responsible marriage mean to you?
Marriage is not just a contract. Like it wasn't just like the government came up with a contract for people to get married. You know, the history of marriage, you can't separate that from the church. The problem is people are trying to make things cool and trying to update and make them modern. And now people are saying you can have a polygamous marriage and you can bring in other people on the outside of a marriage. What's the point of getting married? Literally, I'd like to ask the question: if you think that you can, if you want to marry somebody and then outsource the sex, you know, outsource the responsibility, outsource what the labor of love is actually supposed to be about, why not just stay single?
So you wouldn't do a threesome with your husband?
Absolutely not, because he's my husband.
Do you
Did you
believe?
even have to ask that to get the
Well,
answer?
I mean, there's
Absolutely
married
not.
couples that want to have threesomes, and
you know
some
what
of
happens?
these ladies are
you
bi-curious.
should jump into those Reddit threads, because every single time that marriage ends in divorce, there's so many Reddit threads
No,
about.
they don't.
Oh,
And a lot of them
I have
actually do
regulars
really
of
well,
over 5
too.
years.
Okay.
And
There's
they're
some that
not
do really
divorcing.
Do you
well.
believe
Well-
atheists can get married?
I think atheists get married because they want a tax break. I don't see the point in an atheist getting married. Why don't you just live with your partner, okay? Whoever it is that you're dating, you're at the stage you said, I don't know if you live with your boyfriend or whatever it is. Why take the next leap? If you're wearing crosses for fun and, you know, it
I mean,
seems
if
like
you're actually
good.
asking
Yeah,
the question,
yeah.
I mean, because then I would just be pledging the fact that I would want to be with them forever.
But
I don't really.
you can just be with them forever. So what is it
Right,
that you
but-
crave that when you want to get married? What's that next step for you? What does it mean? What's the difference between
It's-
dating and marriage?
Because it's a commitment.
Is dating not a commitment?
It's a commitment, but it's saying a
But
next
you're
step.
but
It's
within-
solidifying it.
Okay, solidifying what? Because if
Solidifying
you're,
a bond between two people that love each other.
Okay, but what is solidified? If you can then jump into that next commitment, which is the exact same as dating, and you can sleep with other people and you can put topless photos on the internet, what are you getting married for? Pictures on Instagrams to say you did it?
I mean, I'm not sleeping with other people.
What's the
but
difference for you between dating and marriage?
I just told you, it's a bond between two people. You're solidifying that by law. You're literally making it known. I want to be with this person forever. It isn't just a simple breakup. Oh, I can go and do whatever the fuck I want and leave. It's a partnership. It's a bond. It's forever.
But there's no difference between dating and marriage
there is a
other than the
difference.
idea in your head that it's a bond, because you're saying also
But it's not an
that
idea in my head.
okay.
It's on paper.
Oh, okay, it's the paper. That was the
But
point I
it's
was
not a
making.
tape. But I'm
just
saying
piece
it's
of
not a
paper.
tax break. It's a legal
And-
thing.
and I think
I'm
for people that are
connecting to
committed-
somebody for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, I think for people that think about marriage and don't think about a cross as something funsy to wear, it's not a piece of paper. You know, it is a union between a man and a woman, a sacred union that should be protected from external forces. Definitely not something that you open up. How I would feel disgusting if my husband ever came to me and said, I want you to sleep with another man or sleep with another woman so that I can fill my sexual fetish. I mean, it's an utter perversion of what it means to be married, and it will lead to divorces. People that have this perspective will, and I'm not saying that if you don't do it, you won't get divorced 100%, but I do want to say that there is probably a reason that a lot of sex workers struggle to find people that want to marry them.
Well, you are not going to be acceptant with your partner if he comes to you and is like, hey, I really like getting pegged. I want you to peg me. And you're like, ew, that's so disgusting. Like, I would never do that. Well, then, okay, what are you going to do? Divorce him? Or what are you going to do? Realistically, I'm asking you hold on. I want to know. What are you going to do? That's your husband. He's like, hey, babe.
I think one of the things about marriage that's really beautiful is I know what my husband, before we got married, I think I know who he is.
But things change, and maybe he wants to start exploring.
He wants to start doing what?
He wants to start exploring, and he's like, oh my gosh, maybe I do want you to like eat my ass, and I kind of want you to peg me. Like I kind of want anal penetration from you because you're my wife and you're so beautiful and hot, and we're married and we have kids together, and I'm feeling a little bit kinky, and I with you, since we have this special marriage and bond, how would you feel if we could just try this out just this one time, babe, please?
I think it would probably indicate to me that my husband was involved in some perverse world, whether it was through pornography, that something else was happening on the side, because these aren't normal things that people just think of when they wake up.
So
like,
what's your
hey,
next
I'd
move?
really like a strap-on dildo.
Okay, right.
Well,
so what's your next move?
What's the ultimatum? He's
Wait,
going
hold
to
on.
divorce me if I
Wait,
don't peg
so what's,
him?
so what's your next
happening?
move?
Crazy. I would think that individual would probably need therapy and not the kind that you give.
Okay, and but you're gonna stay with
You don't.
this person?
You don't immediately divorce.
Okay.
Marriage is
You're gonna
about
stay.
working through issues and working through problems. You
Okay,
don't immediately
right.
divorce them. And this gets back to what she was saying about if your
Because-
husband, if suddenly a woman doesn't want to have sex, which would be another huge issue in a relationship. I would hope that my husband wouldn't instantly divorce me, but I would hope that they would
Well, some
take
guys
the.
are terrified of that, and some guys don't even feel like they can open up to their wives about that. About that
Sounds
stuff.
like they need therapy.
They
then.
need
If they
therapy.
can't open up to
Yeah.
his
and
wife.
yeah, I
You gotta
know.
work on your marriage.
But the thing is that they'll come to us talking to us about that. You know what I mean? So it's just like,
And I think
don't
that
know, I
that's
think it's-
unhealthy. And I think that, the fact that sex workers exist as this, what you believe to be a solution, when in fact that's a detriment, because you're getting in the way of the wife and the husband being able to communicate. And so I would much rather my husband go, if there was an issue and your wife's not having sex, I'd rather him go talk to a priest. I'd rather him go talk to another male. When males sit down and talk about, hey man, you should talk to her about
Okay, but
this.
let's be
I'd
for
rather
real.
him.
What
No,
man nowadays
let me
is
finish
gonna
my
do
statement.
that?
I'd rather him. What do you mean, bros talking to each other about things? That's a normal. I'd
Especially
rather, if I
about
have an
sex, I
issue
feel
in
like
my,
that's pretty
it's
normal.
pretty normal. I'd rather go talk to my sisters about things that are going on
No,
in
I
my
said
marriage.
what
There's a
man?
lot of steps you can take before you talk to a prostitute about your marriage. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I live in such a crazy.
well, I'm
place,
saying what
but
man is
I
willing
don't know,
to do
I'd
that?
turn on a
Because
turn on a
apparently
Taylor
we
Swift
get a lot
song,
of those on
cry
this
a little
side,
bit in
is
my
what I'm
room. I don't know. There's a lot. I would turn to
Wild
Taylor Swift
proposition.
before I would go to a prostitute about
Well,
my marriage.
I
and
know, but you're not a male, so
no,
I'm just saying, like,
men can talk to
where-
other. What are you talking about? There's all of these podcasts of men talking to men and being inspirational and talking about porn addiction and talking about the things that are corrupting men's minds. That's out there.
Okay,
and
and I
those
know
are. I would much rather my husband listen to those men,
Right.
and look for guidance, whether it's in the church,
I
whether
hear
it's on a
you.
podcast, whether it's a spiritual leader, than to turn to a prostitute in a brothel.
I hear you.
So there's a lot of steps that you can take from we're having an issue in our marriage to my husband's at a brothel laying next to a prostitute talking about issues.
don't
in my
think
marriage.
Really quick.
Statistically, married men are actually the highest number of clientele for prostitutes.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying, please listen for me. I'm literally telling you guys, males come to us and say all this stuff, which is like they're first scared of you guys because how you might react. Two, they feel like they can't be honest and open with you guys. That's why they result in coming to places
Yeah,
like
just
that.
so you guys know, that statistic doesn't mean that the majority of married men go to prostitutes. So
I
if you
didn't say that.
No, I know. I'm just letting her know because she said like yes, like it was if it was a debunk.
No,
and I think what
no,
he's
no,
saying is
no,
that the
no.
majority
Oh,
of married
nice,
men don't
yeah.
turn
I'm just saying, like,
to prostitutes.
a lot-
so there
we
might be a
get a lot
small
of married men, is
contingent,
what I'm
and they
saying,
might be majority
right?
married.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get that.
Okay. Candace Owens, do not hold back on these libs. Wipe the floor with your intelligence. Congrats on being prego again. Be easy with my Essie, though. She's about to get retired out soon. Candace, the honey badger queen. Is that your nickname?
I don't know.
Or did you just get bestowed with
I just
the...
got bestowed.
Thank you for your voice and being on. This wacky space is a cultural battlefield that somehow pushes beyond ideological bubbles. When are Jeremy and Ben going to make Brian an offer? Seriously, think about it.
I'll bring it to them.
Oh.
I've got a lot to bring to them. After.
Yes, hi Candace, thanks for being a voice when I felt odd having conversation. Felt odd having conservative behaviors, excuse me. Your bravery has helped countless people become comfortable with being conservative.
Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Panel, please listen to everything that Candace says. You have a rare opportunity to see what a high-value woman is and learn from her as she's intelligent, respected, and accomplished. You can't justify and make excuses for your lifestyles. Anybody got a response to that one?
Thank you.
Oh, okay, there you go. All
I
right.
like my lifestyle.
I love my
Okay.
lifestyle.
I'm getting to go on vacations.
No, I just wanted to ask you,
Oh.
as the man sitting at this table, are you attracted to their lifestyles? Do you think men are attracted to their lifestyles? I'm just curious about your opinion, just to hear a
Good thing
male.
I don't care.
Well, that's so rude.
No,
he
but
sat
I mean,
here and
good-
asked you your opinion about
no,
everything.
I said like good thing I don't care for
But I
what
didn't-
other male has to say about my industry, though.
But
I'm just
he's been
saying.
asking you questions about what you think about men.
No, I'm gonna
He's been
listen to
asking you
him.
questions about your life, and the first thing when I
No,
ask one
he can
question to
say his
him,
question.
you
I'm
say
just
I don't
saying, like,
care. I feel like
personally,
I'm very hurt.
Like-
I want to know.
Yeah, I just
demand an
but why
apology. How dare
interrupt
you.
that? Like when he asks you a question, what if someone said, "I don't care what she says"? You know, I think that's just a little
like,
rude.
I'm saying like because everybody's always out here. I see your faces that you're giving her and stuff like that. And I think
No,
it's funny.
I just am
And so I'm
saying
just
like I'm letting her
like,
talk, but I just wanted to hear his opinion on it. So I just was
ahead,
that like
Brian.
a little bit of insecurity to just jump and say I don't care because
Can I
did you
poach
think,
Candace from the Daily Wire?
Well,
I think I need
it was
to
just a little rude.
Go ahead,
like,
Brian.
I need a
he's let
I
you
need a
talk so
defender.
much. We've all been letting people talk with different perspectives. So I just thought it was like suddenly he hasn't even said anything, and you've
there
already
was a
diminished.
few times where
What?
Condescending
Okay, well,
look.
in
yes.
any case,
So
in any case,
it's
so
okay.
I just want to hear
Just
a male
continue,
voice. Like we've been all talking
okay,
about our
I'm
opinions.
trying to let Brian continue, and you're still talking.
Okay.
a little bit
So
of insecurity coming out over there. I'm not sure where it's coming from, but go on.
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, do I have your permission? Is it okay? Is it okay? Okay, cool. So sorry, can you just repeat the question one more
Yeah,
time?
I was just saying like it's interesting because we're all women and we're giving different perspectives and the female perspective on this topic. When you hear what she just said about sex work and how she feels about sex work, or you hear what she's saying, or you hear what she's saying, what is your honest opinion as a man? Because what we're trying to get to, I think the nucleus of is, you know, high value women, high value men, what creates that, how men respond to that, and we have the opportunity to hear a man. I don't know.
I mean, I personally would not date a woman who is involved in sex work in any of its various manifestations. I don't foresee myself wanting to get involved with someone who does sex work.
And why do you think that is? I think most men would agree with you. I think that makes sense to me. But why is that? Because I think it's just interesting to hear a male perspective. That's all.
Sure. I mean, well,
And I said I don't care because it's like, and you're like, no, don't take offense. Like, I'm not going to take offense to something I don't care about. That's why I'm like.
No, it's just the preempt.
And you stated, you were like, and you looked at me and you said, and don't take offense. Like, baby, I'm not offended by any means. You know what I mean?
okay.
Okay.
That's
I'm
totally
not
fine.
looking for
We
a
I'm not,
high-end
I'm not,
relationship right now.
I'm not trying to offend you. She was just asking me.
Yeah, I literally was just
my
asking a
stance.
question.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What specific factors do you think encourage it most? Do you believe it's like media? Do you think like birth control has anything to do with it? Do you believe like I want to know what your top factors of promiscuity are, what you believe it is.
Yeah, so I would say number one contributor is culture and the education system. So I remember when I was left-leaning, a lot of my ideas came from the school system and just what you're talking about, Planned Parenthood in the classroom. That effort began in the 70s. The majority of high schoolers were graduating with their virginity intact in the 70s before they started teaching health class, which was teaching people that everybody's doing it, and actually they weren't. And within 1 decade, it completely flipped, and the majority of teens were now graduating having lost their virginity. So we ceded a lot of that to the education system, which when parents had more control over their children, what was happening in the classroom was based on arithmetic and not cultural issues, and focusing on engineering children to think that sex is this positive, it's you just do it, everybody's doing it, doesn't matter if you have multiple partners. You combine that with feminism in the classroom. I was forced in college to take a feminism 101 course, and they kind of made you think that,
Beaten Cheeks donated $200. Candace, please tell these women their past promiscuous matters to be with a decent guy that will not be beta males. SC, that was just a friend, we still on relax. Just answer my text and we good I promise equals D.
All right, thank you, Cheeks. Was there a question here for Candace, or?
And they started teaching sex education. There used to not be sex education in school, and the way that they got it into the classroom in the 70s was by saying, it's better to teach them, which is what you're saying, because then they'll be more responsible. It actually, within 1 decade, it flipped. The majority of high schoolers were graduating with their virginity before there was sex education, and then when they put sex education in the classroom, the majority of them within 10 years were not graduating with their virginity. So it actually sexualized children.
Yeah. My understanding, but the reason why was because the first manifestations of sex education was abstinence only,
and it was working, is what I'm saying to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was working. So abstinence, it used to be, considered, and I'm not at all trying to, I'm just telling you what the facts are here. Like when people when abstinence was the cultural simulation, when everyone said you should be abstinent, you should not have sex before marriage, that idea was permeated throughout culture. It was reflected in culture. There were no sex ads. There weren't people naked on the internet, and people lived their lives. It was considered a big thing, to lose your virginity. You were actually considered someone that maybe a guy wouldn't want to marry because you lost your virginity. That was the cultural understanding, in the 50s and the 60s. And then in the 70s, you had this fourth wave of feminism that reared its ugly head and started associating sexual promiscuity to freedom, and things completely flipped. Again, I'm just giving you a historical analysis of what happened in the classroom.
Yeah, I'd
without
be interested.
Commentary.
Yeah,
Hold on.
It's okay if you. Sorry, I'll just finish.
Make
this.
it quick if you
Yeah,
can.
I'd be interested to see where exactly you're getting that from. If later you can tell me or whatever.
Thomas Sowell, Inside the Education System, and he has
Okay.
all of the sources listed in the back of the book.
Okay, because at least in modern day, do you think that any of that has flipped or no?
No, I think we've become, there was, to use a term, I was actually talking about this yesterday on a podcast. I thought it was pretty brilliant. Paul Joseph Watson, I love his YouTube stuff, and he started talking about hoflation, which is like
That's a thing.
actually hilarious, which he's saying that men used to have to do a lot less and get a very high value woman. He's like, so think about your grandparents and your grandmother. She was a high value woman. She raised the kids. She was conservative. She was beautiful, all of these things. And now we live in this moment where everyone's kind of a hoe, and you have to work harder to get a woman that doesn't have any self-respect or any value. And I just thought it was a really interesting video. It was obviously funny, but he was saying something. And we live in hoflation now, where everybody in their own capacity is selling their bodies. And unfortunately, these are the options that men have. No, I'm not saying, it's stunning to me that women talk about what men need to be and what men need to be, but I think just kind of the complete disintegration of when I look at, what my grandmother looked like in picture. She passed in 2013, and just how classy and how beautiful and how much I wanted to be like her. And now I look at, women today, and I just think, man, I feel bad for guys that that the pool is getting smaller, but also it's really positive for women that are conservative and who it means that you're part of maybe a smaller pool of individuals. I see it a lot more in the South, and that men should aspire to pursue those women, absolutely, to raise their families and to raise their kids.
Do you co-sign on the hoflation theory?
I believe, the women today are very low value, and so it's funny because the simulation is like men ain't shit is kind of the thing everybody's saying. Don't need a man, and it's funny that someone brought up Beyonce because she's living the exact opposite of what she's singing. She's just making money because she knows how to make money in a hoflationary environment. Smart woman. She's like, I'm just going to pretend to be a hoe, but then actually privately I'm going to be like super like.
Hold on.
Hoes come on the podcast to talk about our.
I'm not knocking hoes.
Well,
I don't want to be a hoe.
I'm saying,
I don't want to be a hoe.
I'm saying you have hoes, and when I say you have hoes coming onto the podcast, you know you're a hoe
Do
if
you
you're
mean
a hoe.
literal hoe or like more of the colloquial?
That's Brian's dream.
You know what I mean?
You have hoes, Brian.
So you sit here and you want to bash sex workers, but we come
When
on
did
here.
I
we
bash?
Bash
When did I
anybody.
bash?
Anybody.
I don't think
There was-
anybody
there
has
was
bashed.
very
He's
little
bringing you
bashing.
on here and giving you a platform to speak. So I
Yeah.
think that if he was going to be bashing you, he wouldn't even allow
But
anybody
making
on.
us
The
making
hero
us
of hoes, if
seem-
you will.
Wait, what do you mean making what?
Making us seem like
I'm not making anybody seem any
hoflation,
sort of
like
No, I'm just talking
we're
about a video.
Trending.
Oh, I'm-
we're a trending topic, so it's relevant to speak on
Because it's interesting.
Wait, what?
It's
Yeah.
fascinating. I am
That's what I'm
fascinated
saying.
by hoes. I'll say it. I'm absolutely fascinated by the way the hoe mind works, the way the hoe hive works. I'm fascinated.
Next
I cover it
documentary.
on my show. You
And
are
it is
correct. It
trending.
is
I'm
trending.
saying, and that's why
when
it's such a
Emma
hot
gets
topic
up
to
and does a
speak about.
video and says something like, it's chic to be divorced before you're 30. It is absolutely fascinating to see how someone's mind can be so warped. In the same way that I think it's fascinating when anybody does anything crazy or says anything crazy, and I cover it on my podcast. I am not knocking it at all. I just tell people what the facts are. You can choose this lifestyle, and here is where you are 99.9% likely to lead in your life, right? You are probably not destined for marriage. You're probably not destined for a stable relationship. Men are going to not want this long term. You can say it 1,000 times. You can have 1,000 cultural examples, and women's still got to go out there and be hoes, because they're about their money and about a Cardi B song or whatever it is. So yes, I think it is fascinating. And it is why I wanted to, talk. This is why I talk about it on my podcast and why I'm very interested to talk to you guys. And I hope you guys feel that I've been respectful in listening to, your lifestyles, even though it's so different from mine. And so I appreciate Brian for hosting.
Well, thank you for coming, Candace. Let's see. I have a couple chats here, and then I have one more question, and then I think Candace will have to leave here in a moment. We have Yvonne. Oh, okay.
Modern Life Dating donated $199. Hey Candace. Thank you for being a voice of common sense and a good representation of being a decent woman in today's modern perverse time. What are your thoughts on the passport bro movement of men leaving America for better wives abroad?
Hey, John, thank you very much for the TTS. Brief little snippet on this, if you
Yes. Yeah, I think that you can find higher quality women in other places. Like, I married an Englishman. I think
can.
America.
Are you a passport,
Passport
not a
lady.
bro, but like
passport cis?
a passport cis?
Passport cis.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that America has really lowered the cultural standards for women more than any. You don't see this kind of, even the way women dress in America compared to England fascinates me. And so, yeah, I think find a wife, do what you gotta do, but also don't discount the South, because there are so many good women in the South in America. Come to Tennessee. They're wonderful.
Candace, what specific steps will you take to ensure that your daughter does not become one of the women sitting at the panel right now?
It would just be impossible in my household. We keep her away from this kind of secular living, keeping them away from tablets, not letting them be raised on Instagram and social media and TikTok, making sure that they have family values instilled in them, that they know what the cross represents, and that they're church-going children. And it's all about who you hang out with. You will become the average of the people you spend your most time with. And I appreciate the time here, but I would definitely say that, I want my kids to be in a different climate.
So, would any of you date a trans person
Hell
while
no.
you're married? Would you consider it to be gay for a man to date a trans woman?
Yes.
For a mass.
Two people that have penises, I don't care how you feel on your inside, I don't care if you dress and you wear a dress or you wear a wig, if you come together and you have sex, you're gay. And I think that is homosexual, right? So I know that people are trying, it is convoluted. So I understand why you're like, they're trying to make it something else and it's in your head. And well, what if you feel like a woman? It's very simple. If you are a man and you are having sex with a man, irrespective of how you feel or whether or not you've mutilated your body or you've chopped something off, it doesn't make you not a man. You're a man. And two men coming together to have sex with their appendages intact obviously is homosexual sex.
I guess, so what is a woman?
I'm having a little boy. The doctor knows that. I know that because he's got a penis that is growing inside of my stomach right now, which is kind of trippy to think about. If I get onto this table and I start meowing like a cat, I don't suddenly become a biological cat because I present like a cat and wear a tail and say meow meow. That is probably means that I need to talk to a therapist. Not you. But yeah, it's not that difficult. It doesn't need to be convoluted. It doesn't need to be controversial. A woman, to answer your question, is an adult female.
Adult human female.
It is an adult human female, and that is the answer to something that it's just shocking to me that every person knew, every child, and then within just a couple of cultural years, everyone is so confused about water being a liquid. It's very, like, again, I'm fascinated by it, so I love to talk to people that are confused by that. But if you were born with a vagina, you are a female, and if you were born with a penis, you are a male. And if you had some rare thing happen, which hardly ever happens, but people always talk about it, where you're born with both parts, you might be intersex, hermaphrodite. But generally speaking, I think we know that means that something genetically went wrong. We are born either male or female. If you grow an afro and wear a wig and put, a lot of black makeup on, you're not a black woman, So your appearance doesn't actually mean anything. You're not black. And the same way that I'm not white. So if we can trick someone, you might be able to trick me. I think Rachel Dolezal did a really good job tricking people into believing that she was black for a long time by darkening her skin, getting super tan, and wearing fake wigs, but she wasn't actually a black woman. So how you feel on the inside and how you present, you might be able to trick people, but that makes you a liar, not a woman. So yeah, that's what I would say in closing.
Yeah.
Guys, please be sure to check out Candace Owens' documentary,
Yes.
Convicting a Murderer.
You guys will love it.
Tomorrow.
It's not political.
Yeah,
I'm
going to watch it tomorrow.
It'll be live on X.
Live on X and thedailywire.com? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, be sure to check that out, guys. Well, Candace, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you guys so much for having me. And honestly, I really did appreciate talking to you guys. Thought it was fascinating. And I think everyone was super respectful. So I really appreciate it. And you, because you're so young, I'm just going to say a prayer for you because I really do believe that in there, there's just a different life for you, and I'm just going to say a prayer for you tonight. And I just wanted to say that because I felt
for me tonight.
I'm
I don't know what that prayer entails.
well, I'm going to
So
say
I
it
do not want
anyways.
it.
Yeah, someday you might.
You're rejecting the prayer?
Yes.
The prayer is rejected. Okay.
I am rejecting
okay.
your prayer.
The show goes on, but Candace is leaving. Guys, give me just a sec to say goodbye.